Seven seconds. I'm going to start talking at 7 seconds and see if that helps with the weird pause that
Mm.
happens if I just play that thing through. Hey everyone, it's a Sunday. It's a very special episode of content, and we're here with Ray Ramos from the Cryptidnals and 565. Is that the
Oh, it's six by
six
six.
five six? Yeah, 656 comics, and we're here to talk about the Cryptidnals and his. He's got a couple of other things coming up. The Void Between the Stars, and what was the other one?
Oh, Bloodhammer. That's the one we're working on right
Bloodhammer.
now.
All
Mhm.
right, awesome. But before we get into all that, I wanted to ask you: did you happen to read anything good this week, comic wise, or watch anything
Uh,
good? Any?
Man, I did read the new Vatican City. I did read that
Hmm.
one.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm glad that Olia's in here because he'd probably shut me down right away. I had a few like critiques about the book and stuff, but I mean, we'll get into that as we go along. Other than that, what have I read this week? Um, that's about it, man. That's the only
Yeah.
thing I had time to read this week. But mhm.
Yeah, and as you know, as short as the floppies are, it's hard to get to around to reading them.
Yeah,
uh,
tell me about it.
it was like I think maybe 2 weeks ago. I posted on X like I'm gonna try to read 3 comics a week. No, haven't done it, but I did actually read a couple issues of Red Koi from Alterna Comics.
Oh, nice.
And I enjoyed them. They're pretty good. The guy's art reminds me of. Do you remember? I don't remember the guy's name who took over for when Eastman and Laird when they stopped drawing the turtles. They had another
Oh,
guy come in.
was it
Um,
was it Lawson?
yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
very very similar kind of like facial, especially in the facial features. Like
Mhm.
reminds me of that. But I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. But I also DC Miller on X. He posts daily. Like he's watching so many movies. I think he watches 2 to 3 a day
Oh,
sometimes.
wow.
But he posted about one called "The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires."
Yes, dude, I love that movie. I've
Do
seen that
you?
movie. It's cool, man. It is
And
out there.
yeah, and I started watching it on YouTube today, and I'm gonna play this real quick because it's I don't know how loud this is gonna be. It's extremely loud in my ears, but if it's
Mhm.
super loud, sorry. But this fight scenes, the end of the fight scenes. That is the greatest collection of on-screen deaths. like
Dude, tell me about it, man. That movie's up there. Like, it's one of the it's just bad. And freaking, like, it was, I think it was the first time that they I forgot the name of them. It was like the Shaw brothers, I think. They
Mhm.
collaborated with Hammer, with
Yeah.
Hammer Films. And even like Peter Cushing is in that, and it's
Yeah.
so awesome, dude. Like, I love that movie, dude.
Yeah, it and I was for one of the first things when they got to the classroom scene, the college, when Peter Cushing was teaching the class.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One of the first things I noticed is one of the guys is Wimp Lo from Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not know
he's
that.
he's the Archer brother.
Oh shit! I gotta go back and watch this all over
Yeah,
again.
and so every time he shows up, all I can hear is like his squeaky shoes. So
That's cool, man. I haven't seen either in a while. This one and the Kung Pao. So
yeah,
it's been
but I didn't finish it. I got about halfway through, so I'll finish it like later tonight.
nice.
Which I'll tell you the only reason I able to watch that not the only reason, but is my wife is out of town. I dropped her off at the airport this morning. She's on a
Oh, okay.
business trip for about a week, so I get to indulge in all the trash and goofy ass movies.
Dude, I was doing that last night. I don't know. I just decided to put on like a sci-fi channel movie. I don't know why, but this movie like fascinates me. It's really really bad, but it's so bad it's good. It's called was it Zombie Night, something like that.
Hmm.
And what's his name is in it. Oh my God, the other half of Weird Science, not the blonde guy. What's his name?
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I know. I could see him in my head, but I wouldn't be able to tell you his name.
Yes, he's in it. Daryl Hannah's in it.
Hmm.
What's his name? Oh man, I forgot his name too. There's just so many. There's so many like actors in it that are like from the '80s,
Yeah,
and it's so horrible, but it's so interesting at the same time. It's called Zombie Night, and if you get a chance, it's on Tubi, and I just started watching. I can't stop watching that thing for some reason, man. It's
yeah.
just really
I
cool.
I just discovered Tubi a few months ago, and I'm like, oh, this has got a load of great stuff.
Oh yeah, dude. Tell me about on the low. I love watching Tubi just to see what I can find on there because some of the stuff they have on there is better than Amazon. So
Yeah, and it's it's uh, my problem with like Amazon and well, in particular Amazon, but um, we pay for Prime, right?
mhm.
And more often, I'm seeing the shit that I want to watch. I gotta rent.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
like I know you, I know they know what people want to see, and it's like that's just a dick move.
exactly, man.
So,
Like you really have to dig in through
yeah.
Amazon to find something that's not for sale, or rather not for pay, that you can watch
Hmm.
for free. Or they have different versions. Like I know that Day of the Dead is on there, but you got to pay for it unless you look for the VHS version. Apparently, it's on there too, and you can watch that for free. Even though you can watch it on Tubi for free also. But on
Yeah.
Amazon, if you type in like Day of the Dead like VHS or something, it'll pop up, but the quality's so low
Yeah.
and it's for free. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'll watch that. I like the VHS, added experience. So it's fine by me. That doesn't matter.
We got watch Duel to the Death.
Yes.
Okay, I will try to keep that in mind. The only reason, like, I mean, I, I I've never seen a Hammer horror film, like,
Hmm.
um, and yeah, but the only reason like this one, caught my attention is because I like kung fu movies,
Yes,
and so I'm like, okay, I can get into that, mix these two, but I might actually, yeah, I might actually start watching some more Hammer stuff. So
dude, the Hammer stuff is just so intense. It's so cool. Um, Horror Express. That's my recommendation too. I'm not sure if it's horror. It's a Hammer, but
mhm.
Horror Express. It's The Thing. Basically,
Oh
it's
yeah.
John Carpenter's The Thing on a train with Telly Savalas. I think Peter Cushing is in it too. It's just intense, dude. And they used to sell that movie at Walmart for like $1, like in the cheap DVD bins,
Yeah, yeah.
and I have like 3 copies of it because I love that movie so much, man. It's just really, really cool, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to build up my DVD collection back up. But like most people, I was like, oh, streaming's the way to go. Now I'm like,
Oh
this is,
no, no.
yeah,
I held on to all my analog stuff, like all my DVDs. There's some stuff on there that doesn't come out on streaming and stuff. So I
yeah.
was like, no, that's gonna stay right there.
Nice. All right. Let's go ahead and start talking about your books and stuff because I did get to read we got
Oh,
Lucid.
Lucid, Mr. Julius Freeman on
Yolanda.
there.
I did like I messaged on X or whatever that read the first issue for free on Global Comics of Cryptidnals, and then
Mhm.
I was like, well, I want to see the rest of this. So your book was actually what made me pay for Global Comics. So
Oh wow, thank
yeah,
you. So that's so cool.
there you go. But now I've got a bunch of the indie scene guys who are on there. I got them loaded up to read at some point. But yeah, no, it's for a couple reasons. One, your artist Dario
Hmm.
Rodriguez, just beautiful line, beautiful work. But then also, okay, so I am half Mexican, half
Hmm.
German,
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, so I'm hoping that that level of removal from Mexican doesn't doesn't disqualify me from writing. I'm writing an Aztec based, Aztec mythology based character.
Oh nice. Okay.
And I was reading through some of this stuff, and I'm like, this is rad. And it got, I don't really even remember why I started looking into the Aztec mythology.
Hmm.
Because I am far enough removed. Like my dad's like the whitest person ever, and I grew up listening to him. Not even country music. I grew up listening to him sing country music. So that's
That's
enough.
cool. That's cool.
But and so it was always my mom. She could speak Spanish, but it was just kind of in the background. My grandma, very Mexican. I'd go to her house
Hmm.
when I lived in her town, and you know, um, I she tried to speak Spanish to me, and I'd just be like, I don't know what you're talking about, Grandma. What are you doing? I learned what chanclas mean because when I didn't fetch them for her, she hit me with them. Um,
I,
uh,
I think that's how we all learn because they end up getting thrown at us or
yeah,
something.
yeah. But yeah, I ended up going down to in Mexico, Escaret. I don't know if you've heard of this place.
That doesn't sound familiar.
It's an all-inclusive resort, and it's the most beautiful fucking place, dude. Like it's
Oh
the
really?
most beautiful place. It's in Cancun, but the
Hmm.
resort itself is. If you ever get a chance, just look up pictures of Xcaret. It's just fantastic. But it all the art and the music and everything, and I was
Hmm.
like, okay, I want to connect. It made me want to connect to like that side of my heritage.
Yeah.
And somehow it from that I ended up getting into the Mexica mythology and stuff. I'm like,
Hmm.
there's stories here.
Well, tell me about it, man. That some
Yeah.
of that stuff, and the thing is that I think, I mean, stop me if I'm going too far, but I think you can feel it. I think you can feel it because of that side of your ancestry.
Hmm.
The Latin American, the Hispanic, the Chicano, the Mexican, however you want to put it. But when you read some of these stories, you can feel it, and it's a deeper understanding of where you come from, and it's a more beautiful experience because you're like, wow, I can connect to this because somewhere along the lines I was growing up, I heard about this or I felt it, or not even that, dude, but it's like in our food, it's in our culture, it's in our music, it's there.
Yeah.
And when you sense it and you connect with it on another level, that's when you're like, wow, this is me, this is part of me, and that just opens you up to a whole different experience also.
Yeah. Uh,
Where is
what
it?
did you see? Chente Fernandez.
Chente Fernandez. And then there's people like Oli that just that just like mock it and stuff, so whatever, it's fine. Yeah.
Beware the
Beware
power of
the
the chancla.
Oh man.
um, but yeah, reading through your book, a lot of stuff, similar veins of drawing from the mythology, but then you mix in a lot of other stuff. But where did you start with cryptidnals? Like, what was your uh, uh, base of like, I got to make this story, and like, all the stuff you put in there.
I mean, honestly, man, it was like growing up, experiencing some of this stuff, and it's a little far fetched. It sounds far fetched, especially when I talk about it. But I
Hmm.
did experience some of this stuff, especially La Llorona. La
Yeah, yeah.
Llorona is something that I actually did experience, or some aspect of her, when I was growing up. And I always tell this story to everybody, and they're like, "Why, really? That really happened?" I'm like, "Yeah, it
Mhm.
really did happen." When I was about 12, 13, around there, back in the day, this is way back in the day. My brother-in-law and my sister, they lived off in the boonies of El Paso. It was called Moon City, and in Moon City, it was really like farm area, like farmland, and they would, in order to get any sort of like TV reception or anything, they had a satellite dish. And I don't know if you remember how satellite dishes work, but if you
Mhm.
wanted to watch something at a certain time of night, you'd have to position it or turn it and wait for that signal to hit.
Mhm.
And my brother-in-law told me like, "Hey, I got a satellite dish." I was like 13, dude, like I said, and he's all, You should come over to the house and we'll watch the Playboy channel. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, that's awesome. So my sister cleared it with my mom. Mom was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like she didn't tell her like, yeah, he's gonna go watch Playboy channel, but he's like, yeah, he's just gonna hang out for the weekend. We went over there. I went over there. I got dropped off, and I spent the night. And same, we stayed up. We ate pizza. I think my brother-in-law was like smoking out, drinking, whatever. But we were cool like that. And around a certain time of night, he's positioned the satellite, and we started watching the Playboy channel. We're like, oh my god! So I fell asleep to the glow of electric sex, right? Like I fell asleep to that. And not, saying that nowadays kind of would get you in trouble. But I was 13. I didn't know what the hell was going on. Going through
Yeah,
puberty,
yeah.
whatever. So I fell asleep, and the way that his house was set up, it was kind of like a shotgun. Like you go into the front, and it was the main living room. On the side, there was a kitchen, and straight to the back was their bedroom, and it was attached to the main house. The main house belonged to his mom, and this was like the garage that he had converted into their house. So whenever anyone drove up into the driveway, you would see the lights come in through the front door because he had positioned like all these cinder blocks, and it was a heavy door and this and that. So if you were sitting in the living room, you'd see these lights come in if someone had driven up.
Hmm.
But since it was so far out in the boonies, like you hardly expect anyone to drive up. So this night we were there, we're hanging out. Eventually I fell asleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I don't know what time it was, to loud banging on the door, like boom, 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 boom. They're banging on the door, and I sat up on the couch, and I didn't look over to where my brother-in-law was, and I said, "Oh shit, he probably locked himself out." So I got up and I went to the door to answer it. As I'm walking to the door, the dogs in the backyard, because the backyard was attached to their house, were going crazy. They were barking. I get to the door to open it, and my brother-in-law sits up and he's like, "No, no, 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 no! Don't open the door. It's La Llorona. If you open the door, she's gonna come in here." And I'm like, "This guy's like still high, man. I don't know what's going on." I reach to open the door, and as I do that, I hear it. It's this sound, and I'll never forget that sound. I can't imitate it, but that sound just resonates in my head, and the sound just kept going. It's like somebody wailing, like in extreme distress.
Hmm.
But what freaked me out was the breath that it took in between. Like it stopped and it took a breath, like like that. Like holy shit! And the dogs, they shut up, like they weren't barking anymore. And this thing like kept going on and on. And I'm right there at the door handle, like ready to turn it to look. My sister comes out of the back, and her kids were asleep in the back. My nephew, my nieces were asleep in the back. She comes out and she's like, "Oh, it's happening again. Come sit down at the couch." And I'm thinking in my head, like, "Again? What are you talking about?" So finally, I had like this like compulsion to open the door, and I stopped myself, and I finally came back, sat down. That thing kept going forever, and finally it vanished. It like stopped, and as soon as it stopped, this bright light came in through the cinder blocks, through underneath the door, as if there was like it was sunlight. It looked like sunlight to me, and it illuminated the room. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at these guys, and they're just waiting it out. And as soon as the light died out, the dogs like came back and they started barking. Everything seemed to go back to normal. And my sister was like standing there. I'm like, "What the fuck was that?" And she's like, "Oh, it was like Llorona. We'll talk about it later." And I'm like, "What? I gotta know. You can't just send me to bed. Like I gotta know what's going on." And she's like, "No, just go to sleep." Like fine. So she went to sleep. I like tried to go to sleep. I couldn't. And then the next morning I asked her like, "What was that?" And she's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It just happens all the time. Just leave it at that." Dude, it took me like another 7 years to find out what had happened. But during that time, like it seemed like this stuff followed me home. So I came back home, and I would see like shadow people. And my mom was into some stuff. I'm not sure what she was into, but it was black magic. It was something. And there was a lot of incidents that happened. Like that would be a whole other show, just to
Yeah.
talk about all the stuff that I saw with my mom. But long story short, when I graduated from high school, I asked my sister 'cause she was there, and I'm like, "What did I witness? What did I experience?" And she told me, like, "Look, man, like, I'll be honest with you. I was messing around with some stuff that I shouldn't be messing around with, and that whatever it was, it manifested itself, and it would come around the house. I did see her a few times. She would be in the backyard. She'd be in the corner. She looked like someone veiled in white. It was really dirty. And behind their house, there was a canal, an irrigation ditch. And behind that, there was nothing but cotton fields. So I figured, like, okay, well, that's the setup right there. That's the way things are when it comes to this thing. That's how you're going to experience it. But I noticed that my family was into some stuff. So from that, it's just me being curious as to what happened in that area, what
Hmm.
happened in my house, what did I experience, all this stuff, and the culmination of that was me trying to express myself, express what I had witnessed, and by that, that came the book came around to that. It's been like just hanging out in my head for like the longest time, and I started
Yeah.
putting everything together. But at the same time, I was interested in all this other stuff. I was interested in Poe, in the Cthulhu mythos, in all this this classic horror, and
Yeah.
the artists as well, like Gustave Doré, and of course the new one, the Junji Ito, all that stuff. So I started writing the book, and I wanted an artist that could probably possibly like translate that into art.
Yeah.
And Dario was around at that time, and I had known him for a very long time, but I was always afraid to approach him. But Dario is like the nicest, most chill dude. Like these guys in Six by Six compare him to like Jesus. Like he's so chill, dude. And I asked him like, "Hey Dario, do you think you could draw this?" And then he started sending me stuff, and like some of this stuff that he would send me, I was like, "Holy crap, dude! Like, where are you coming up with this? This is like nightmare fuel." And it just developed from there, and we started working on the book together. And I always credit Dario as the co-author, the co-creator of the book, because without him, I don't think the vision of the Cryptonals could have come through
Yeah.
without his artwork. But that's pretty much the basis of how the Cryptonals came to be, as far as the background of it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and show a little bit of his art from issue
Yes, by
one.
all means, by all
And
means.
if anyone's watching and you haven't read this yet, you can head to Global Comics and read issue one for free. So do that. But while I show it, I'll go ahead and tell my mom, when she was a kid, she grew up in Prescott, Arizona, and
Oh,
she my grandma's house was built by my grandpa, and it was um, run down from the get go, you know.
oh
And
wow.
there was one bedroom, and then my mom had three siblings, and her and her sister would sleep in the living room, and my uncles would sleep in the kitchen floor at
Oh,
night. And uh, when one night my mom told me that she was in bed sleeping, and something woke her up. It was and uh, she woke up, and she said it didn't start at first. She said something else woke her up. She just kind of woke up, and then she was laying there, and all of a sudden she started hear the wailing of La Llorona.
oh shit.
She said she laid there. She said it seemed to have gone on for like half the night. She's like, and she couldn't move. And her sister, she didn't know if her sister was awake or what was happening, but she said after however long it was, it finally stopped. And she thought, oh, maybe I was just dreaming. But she woke up the next morning, and her sister's like, did you hear that last night? Like,
Oh.
she's like, yeah. She's like, I could not move. Like, I physically couldn't move. And she's like, neither could I. So, like,
Hmm.
so it's and if any people who are watching don't know La Llorona, could you kind of give them a heads up, like what's the story?
So the basic story of La Llorona is back in this goes back a really long time, but I mean you take your pick as far as who you want to believe. But back in like the 1700s, 1600s, when the Aztecs were being invaded, this woman supposedly betrayed the Aztec society by siding herself with Cortez, and Cortez um, had an affair with her, and she had two children with him. But Cortez went back to live in Europe, and left her there. And she begged and pleaded for him to come back, and he wouldn't come back. So supposedly, according to legend, she made a deal with the devil, drowned her children, and asked for him to come back. When he did come back, he rejected her. He didn't want anything to do with her, so she felt so bad about it that she tried to kill herself in the river by drowning herself like she did her kids. But because of the pact that she made, death denied her. So she is destined to roam eternity, searching for those children that she drowned, and never finding any sort of peace because of the deal that she made. So that's her story, La Llorona's story. And it changes through time, as far as there's other versions
Yeah,
of it,
because
but
I
that's
because I had never heard, like, okay, also I just recently learned about Melanson.
Mhm.
But like I'd never heard that connection.
Mhm.
So, I heard it's just like a random woman killed her kids and now, roams around crying about her kids.
Mhm.
And did you ever see the movie?
The new one that came out, yes, I did
Yeah.
see it,
What'd
and
you think?
there was some aspects of it that I thought were cool, but overall, I did not really
It,
like it.
yeah, it was
Mhm.
what was it was that from the guys who do like oh yeah,
Oh,
God, now I can't.
the Warren movies,
Yeah. Is it the same kind of
The Conjuring
universe or whatever?
universe. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was it's just kind of like that level.
Mhm.
Fun, but yeah, yeah. But I remember thinking this isn't one of their better ones, but
Yeah. Mhm.
um, but the art though is his line work is fantastic. I'm gonna remove us from the
Go ahead.
thing and see it. Um, but yeah, character wise, I did do that little short review on TikTok and everything,
Mhm.
where I mentioned what was the guy's name? Now I can't remember the artist's name who did like Yummy Fur. Um,
Oh, I'm trying to
Shoot,
remember too.
but
It,
his uh, humans, the like their facial structure and their body types and stuff, like very Chester Brown.
there you
That's who
go.
it was. Very much reminds me of Chester Brown, but like more detailed and stuff. But his line work is just beautiful. Like he just, do you know how long it takes for him to do one of these pages? Because there is a lot of strokes going on in here.
Surprisingly, he's pretty quick, man. Like I think he works on a page every 3 days or something like that. He's pretty quick when it comes to it, and he loves the stippling. He loves the cross hatching. He loves doing all that stuff. But the thing about Dario is that he's like a chameleon. Like he can change his style up like super quick because there's
Really?
other stuff that he's done that just you just have to tell him like what you want, and Dario will like find a way to do it, and it'll be gorgeous. Like he's done murals, he's been hired on children's books, all this crazy stuff that he does in Mexico as well. Right now, as a matter of fact, I think he's at the Feria de los Libros selling his books. There's a fair going on in Juarez. He's selling his books, but he just completed a mural like on the side of a building. Like I think last week he just finished it, and it was I don't know if I have pictures of it or not, but so yeah, he's like a chameleon, man. He's all over the place. 1 to 2 days depending on detail. Thank you, Oliver. That's there you go.
Nice. All right. So who's Oliver?
Oliver is the one of the head guys from 6 by 6. I've been working him forever. He's we always say that he has a giant eraser by his side all the time, so he can erase all the mistakes. He's like the editor, but he's also an accomplished artist and writer. Right now, Oli, which I call him, is working on a biography of a graffiti artist from El Paso, from Juarez, that he got a grant to work on that. Graphic novel for like the next 3 years. So he's working on that right now.
Hmm.
But Oli is usually the one that's on our ass. Like he's the editor. He's like telling us what to do, what he doesn't like, stuff like that. So, and he's very, very accomplished. So we tend to listen to to him when he says something. So, like originally
Nice.
the Kryptonose was supposed to be in color,
Oh
and
yeah.
I told him from the very get go, like I want it in color, and he's like, no, you can't have it in color because color will just destroy it. And I'm like, no, I don't care what you say, man. This is my book. I want it in color. I don't give a shit. And he's like, no, you're not getting it in color. You don't seem to understand. If you let Dario draw, you'll understand then. And I'm like, okay, let's see what he does. And this is what he came up with. And I'm like, oh shit, you were right. We can't have this
Yeah.
in color because it just loses everything.
Yeah, excellent call. Because like the color would just muddle and kind of take away from the line work. It's
Hmm.
beautiful stuff. But let's go. Let's see. Go back to this one here. Here we go. This one.
All right.
Um, let's talk about characters. You got. We already mentioned La Llorona, but
Hmm.
who? Let's talk about what is the cryptid mills.
So the Cryptinals is kind of my love letter to the X-Men in a way, but in through horror,
Mhm.
basing it in horror. So the Cryptinals are this group of cryptids that have existed for a very long time, and there's been different iterations of the main group of the core team, I guess if you want to call it that, that have existed throughout time, kind of protecting this reality against forces that would remain in the shadows. And it's been made up from different time periods and different teams. There have been different people involved in it, or different monsters rather involved in it. Like currently, the current team is La Llorona, which you can see here, and she's kind of updated herself. She looks like a hot goth girl that you don't want to fuck around with, so she's all clad in leather. So that's La Llorona. We got the Goat Man right there, and he's from Alton, Texas. I don't know if you know about that legend of the Goat Man
Haven't heard that
Bridge.
one.
Yeah, the Goat Man Bridge is near Denton. It's the Alton Bridge, and he guards that area. But there's a lot of other Goat Man stories that are spread out throughout the U.S. and in parts of Europe. But this is the manifestation of Faunus, and Faunus being the god of the forests, and this is his avatar, which is the Goat Man, or Heaton. His name is Heaton Sikala, the Goat Man. And then right below that we have Shifter, which is a kind of like an iteration of a Rougarou, a werewolf, and she's part of the story as well. And then everybody talks about the Man Dog. Everybody loves the Man Dog. He's
Yeah.
kind of like our Wolverine type character, and he's actually based off of a real legend here in El Paso and in San Elizario. San Elizario is one of the like I guess it kind of orbits El Paso. It's part of El Paso, but some people say it's not. But that's where Billy the Kid was actually housed in jail one time,
Hmm.
and he escaped in San Eli, Texas. But back in the 1800s, really quick story. Back in the 1800s, there was a salt war that occurred in the area, and the landowners were mistreating the natives that were mining the salt, and they would take
Hmm.
the salt and bring it from the salt flats, which are near Carlsbad in Texas, and bring it through the border in Mexico, and then ship it off to the interior of Mexico. It was like a big business. So the landowners got kind of greedy. They started mistreating the villagers, the natives, and
Hmm.
the natives rose up against the landowners, started like murdering them, and they called for the Texas Rangers. And the Texas Rangers showed up. And if you know anything about Texas Ranger history or anything at all about the Texas Rangers, that they don't fuck around.
Yeah.
And it's the only time in recorded Ranger history that they were ever defeated.
Hmm.
The natives took to arms. They murdered all the Rangers. They cut them up into pieces and they threw them down a well that still stands in Sanelli, except for one of the Rangers. And apparently, this Ranger was like the most dastardly, evil Ranger that existed. And they cursed him. The village shaman cursed him and said, "Because of all the evil that you've ever done, you are cursed to wander the earth like a dog, and you will never find a home." And that's where the man dog came from. He turned into this beast, this man that looks like a dog, and he's seeking redemption. And he also has these two pistols. They're
Hmm.
dragoons. They're occult dragoons, and these pistols are imbued with some sort of mystical power. And every bullet that he uses out of that gun, if he shoots something that's paranormal or a monster, he can destroy it no matter what it
Nice.
is. But at the same time, it renders him human for an hour. Each bullet is an hour. And while he's as a human, while he turns back into a human, if he dies during that time, Satan himself will show up and claim his soul. So he's kind of that's the curse right there. So he's damned if he uses it, he's damned if he doesn't. So he's just trying to seek redemption. He's trying to figure out a way to be redeemed for the sins
Hmm.
that he's committed. But at the same time, all these monsters are after him because of all the stuff he's done over the years, and he's immortal as long as he stays in his dogman form. But the minute he turns into human, he's up for grabs by
Hmm.
whatever entity shows up. So
Yeah.
that's the man dog right there. Everybody loves that
Well,
character.
yeah. Well, congratulations on one of the coolest character like stories ever.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
That's rad. Like, yeah, no, you got like Our Man. He takes a pill or whatever, and he's super strong for an hour. This guy's like vulnerable for any bullet. Like, that's rad.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, everybody loves this guy, man, and
Yeah.
I love him too because he's one of my favorite characters. My favorite character, however, is Spring Hill Jack, and I don't know if you know anything about Spring Hill Jack, but back in the
Um,
1800s, there was sightings of this thing right along the time that there was Jack the Ripper. Spring Hill Jack would appear in London, right? And they just people have described it as this man that had like bat wings and a helmet, and it would like spew like blue fire, all this craziness.
hmm,
And once I started doing the research on Spring Hill Jack, I discovered that there was sightings of the exact same like monster in Dallas, in Austin, and
hmm,
actually in Silver City, New Mexico. And it looked exactly the same. It was described exactly the same, and I was like, "Why was Spring Hill Jack be in New Mexico? Like, why would it be?
hmm,
What would it be doing there?" So I came up, and that's part of the story right there that revolved. Like, if you read through the cryptonotes, there's like Nightmare Hall. Why is Nightmare Hall there? And all of that, comes into play through the whole book, and it
yeah.
explains why Spring Hill Jack was in the area, and why Spring Hill Jack is now not a he right now, but a she. So
Hmm.
that's like a whole other thing right there too. But all these characters are kind of like the X-Men group, I guess you could say, and they're all teaming together they're trying to protect the reality, this reality.
Do you know what this is in reference to? I'm not
It
sure.
says glass,
This
purple,
is
yellow,
purple.
diamond. What glasses, purple, yellow? I have no idea what that means. I'm not sure. Throwing me
You
for a loop
also
there.
have Kid
Oh,
Cthulhu.
yes, Kid Cthulhu. Um, so Kid Cthulhu during in the book, there's a part of the story where it's the Battle of Nightmare Hall, and this actually is based on actual events that did happen. I tried to base everything on something that did happen in the paranormal history of the world,
Hmm.
right? So back in the 70s, according to legend, and there's actually been testimony about this from soldiers that worked at Nightmare Hall. At the end of the 70s, there was gray aliens that had infiltrated the military, and they were working on in the secret base in Dulce, New Mexico, and it's called the Dulce Base. It's an Archuleta Plateau base or something like that. It's like a base inside the mountain, and these aliens were working on human alien hybrids underneath the mountain, and there was levels to the mountain, and all the testimony that has come out, and you can look this up on YouTube, because there's guys that have come out and they're like, yeah, I was there, my buddy got shot with a laser and he got disintegrated by these aliens. I was like, holy shit. And I've seen these. At the very bottom of the base there was a place called Nightmare Hall, and inside Nightmare Hall is where they kept all the hybrid experiments that they had done with humans and aliens. So in the 70s, something happens. Like if you read the cryptos, you'll find out. But something happens where military has to go in there and fight these aliens, and cryptids are involved. And there's pretty much like this giant like wormhole open up inside the base,
Hmm.
and this monster comes through. And at the end of all things, Cthulhu, Lovecraft's Cthulhu shows up, but he's been reduced to the form of a child.
Hmm.
So there you have an elder god that's trapped in the body of a child, and that's just like all sorts of craziness. And
Yeah.
that's he's part of the group as well. So
Nice.
it's Kid
Yeah.
Kid Cthulhu.
I like that he's just gaming.
Pretty much through the whole book, he's just hanging out.
Yeah, that's nice. Uh, uh, so the Cthulhu as a kid, was that part of the original story? Or is that where you kind of made that part up?
I kind of made that part out. There's actually a non what is it called? A damn, I forgot the name of it. Like when certain characters are licensed to slip into public domain. There's
Hmm.
a public domain character, and his name is Kid Cthulhu, but he's way different than the Kid Cthulhu that we have. But I found out about Kid Cthulhu in public domain after I had created this character,
Hmm.
so it had nothing really to do with each other. But I found that interesting. But yeah, that's all me, and that's all the audio that we're coming up with.
Nice.
That like, how can we make this cool, but at the same time, kind of like, holy crap, like this is powerful, but it's
Yeah.
it's contained in a child, kind of thing. So
Yeah. So you got a lot of um, uh, local mythology to the Texas area. You got
mhm.
Aztec, Mexica mythology, creepy pastas thrown into the book as well.
Oh yeah.
Um, but the main bad guy,
Oh, the big bad.
yeah. Actually, is he? He's not the big bad, is he? Is
Well,
there's someone higher than him, right?
yeah, yeah. There's someone higher, but this is like I guess the avatar. Everybody has their own agendas, right? So this guy, which is El Ñango, is kind of a derivative of a Slender Man. But whenever I
Nice.
read the Slender Man story, I always found it kind of like lacking in
Yeah.
something. Like it was
Hmm.
just like, oh, it's the Slender Man. He's in the woods, and that's it. He seduces kids to do his bidding. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like, what's the reason for that, right? Why is that happening? So we came up with this story of El Ñango, and El Ñango in Spanish translated to English means like the floppy one, or the spindly one,
Hmm.
and that's what El Ñango means. And he has a lot of aspects that the Slender Man carries, but the agenda that this guy has is way different than the Slender Man. So we
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of had to differentiate ourselves from that character. And yeah, this is him. And there's other characters that are above him, of course, but this is the one that's presented at first as the
Yeah.
big threat. Hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, like you get into even further into the Mexica mythology, because his boss is is uh, Xolotl.
Yes, Xolotl.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
Xolotl is the Aztec god of monsters and death, and things like that, things like in the shadows and stuff like that. And
He. I'm trying to remember now. He's not the guy. He's Quetzalcoatl's like twin or
mhm.
something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Quetzalcoatl had a twin, and that was Xolotl. And Xolotl was like the bad side of whatever Quetzalcoatl represented. Like Quetzalcoatl represented like the sun, and like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
brightness of the good in life, and Xolotl was the darkness, that side of it. So
Mm,
they're twin siblings. Hmm.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like that's kind of when I was reading through. I'm like, oh man, this is like because I like the past. I don't know. I'm gonna call it 6 months. I've
Hmm.
been trying to do as much research. There's not a whole lot of stuff available on the internet.
Hmm.
For Mexican mythology.
Oh yeah.
I got a book, Maya Aztec mythology. That picture you posted of like your collection had one. I'm like, oh, I'm jealous of that one particular book you got of Aztec.
Oh, okay. I can get
um,
you a copy, man. I'll look. Just tell me which one it is. I can probably find you one. So.
all right, yeah, but yeah, like just the how deep and far back a lot of a lot of these gods and stuff go,
Hmm.
connecting to the Olmecs, and even down
Hmm.
into like Peru
Oh
and
yeah.
everything, is really so. When you were coming up with this stuff, how much uh, research did you do before you're like, okay, I think I've got a good enough, handle on this to just kind of go with it?
I have to give credit to Joseph Campbell when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to all this stuff. And I don't know if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's work or not, but like the Faces of God, the hero's journey, all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where it originates from. And Campbell always, had that whole set of all stories across cultures are connected in some way, shape, or form, because we all have the human experience, and we all have that same experience of growing up. Like, we all want to be heroes at one point in time. We all have to take that journey out of childhood into puberty, into adulthood. And because of that, it helped me really look at all these different cultures and all these different stories and find the connections in them. And as long as you hit on those connections, as long as you can see where all those ties are, then whatever you choose will resonate with people on some level. To me, it's what's handy. It's my background, the
Hmm.
Aztec traditions, the Maya, the Inca, all the stuff that's around me. But to other people, like the Celts, they look at
Yeah.
their background, and they'll find those connections as well. And I think that's what makes it so easy to do the research, because I'm very interested in folklore. I'm interested in folk tales, and all of these stories that have come up before us. And once you start reading into this stuff, even one story or two stories from a different part of the world, you'll see those connections in the stuff that you already know. So when I was doing research and I started like noticing these similarities, I was like, oh, okay, well that's kind of resonates over here, which is the same as this over here. And and that's what got me kind of like really thinking, like, if everything is connected, how are we connected as a
Hmm.
society? Like, how do I dig deep into what I know, and at the same time someone that I don't know might know the same stuff without ever meeting, because
Yeah.
it's already been there. And there's this really cool thing that I always kind of subscribe to. And I don't know if you're familiar with like Carlos Castañeda and all this other
Hmm.
craziness. It was like a mysticism, like Hispanic and Latino mysticism. And Castañeda, he said in one of his books, he said that when we are born with all the knowledge that has ever existed in our ancestors and in the universe. But the thing is, we have to remember it, because it's
Hmm.
there, but we don't remember it. And as soon as we start remembering, we start making those connections. And once we make those connections, then we can see like all the ties that bind us. And I always thought about that, like, shit, man, that's really interesting. That's really
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, when doing the research, immediately I start looking for those connections. I start looking to see where I can fit this in, because it sounds similar to something, and from that it just sends me on a tangent. And that's another thing too, man. You got to be really, really into doing the research and learning
Yeah.
stuff like this, because it's a huge undertaking. Like, especially when you're world building and you're trying to like make these these things exist that don't exist, but connect
Yeah.
them at the same time. So yeah, it's when you ask that question, like, when do you know when to stop? When you know that's enough? It never is. Like, to me, it never is enough. I just want to gather as much information as I can, as much knowledge as possible, and just keep going with it.
Yeah, I think the problem I'm running into as I'm trying to write this story is, you're doing research and you run across something else that's cool,
Hmm.
something else that you're like, that would make such a rad story, or that's a really cool character,
Hmm.
and then I start like, how can I fit that in? How can I fit that? And instead of just like sticking to a basic, like, here's this story, I'll get to that later. I'm like, how can I do it all at once?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it, man. Because it happens to me all the time too. Like, I come across these stories and I'm like, shit, I want to drop everything and just write this right now and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. So.
yeah. The so like I said before, I my connection with Mexican culture is mostly through my grandma,
Hmm.
and that's but also I'm in construction, so
Oh, okay.
there's some there. But how much of so when I started getting into reading about the Maya and Mexica, it's like, this is really, interesting, cool stuff, right? And it's
Hmm.
right next door to the US. It's right
Oh yeah.
there. And I understand like how Greek and Roman history and stuff influence, but like, it's right there.
Yeah.
How much of your of that stuff was it kind of part of your childhood? Like, did you learn about the Mexica at all, mythology growing up?
I did and I didn't. Like, my parents, they are from Mexico, and when they came over, they would do certain things, and most of it is like what is it called? Like superstitions, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh well, what's the silliest one that I remember? Like, oh, don't touch a frog because you'll get warts. Like, where does that come
Hmm.
from? Why is that? Why do you say that? Like, like, don't point at a rainbow because you're gonna get warts or something like that. And as I grew up, I was like, well, where is this coming from? And I think the experiences that I had growing up with my parents and my mom, and my family doing whatever it is they were doing, they kind of like opened my eyes to other things, and I wanted to know more. And as I got older, I started doing this research. I started going back and like looking at, like, well, why did they say this, and why did they do this at this time? Like like I remember I would hang out with a lot of natives in the area,
Do you
and
hear my son?
yes, I hear. That's cool. I would hang out with a lot of
One sec,
natives.
one sec.
Oh no,
Let
no, go
me
right ahead, go ahead. You do what you need to do, bro.
let me put. August, what you doing? Come here. You want to come say hi real quick? Yeah. All right, come say hi. Hi. Closer. Say hi, everyone.
Hi,
Hi,
how
everyone.
are you?
Dad. Are you doing okay? Yes. Okay. All right. See you later. Be quiet, please. Close the door.
Nice.
Anyways, sorry about that.
No, you're good, man. My kids come in here all the time too when I'm doing
Yeah.
streams and stuff, so it's all good.
I just got to make
Um,
sure he's not starting fires or something.
that happened to mine, dude. Like like a month ago. Like he was starting a fire in the bathroom. I was like, "What are you doing?" Well, you left this flamethrower here. Like that's not a flamethrower, bro. That's like to light the candles. Like you're not supposed to use that. He had lit like a piece of toilet paper on fire and he
Oh
just left
no.
it there. It was like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing? So yeah, I understand, man. No worries.
um. Uh. I don't. Do you remember where we were?
As far as growing up and stuff
Oh
like
yeah,
that,
that's
like
right.
so yeah, there was a lot of stuff that people would do, and I was always curious as to why are they doing that? Like why are they like whenever some I remember this one, dude, like a baby would fall. Like we were at a
Mhm.
at a at a family gathering and a baby would fall, and as soon as he would fall, like they would pick him up and they would like bless him,
Hmm.
like they put like the benediction on him. I don't know if you're Catholic or not, but that like in Catholicism that's rampant. Like for everything,
Mhm.
they just bless you. Like, oh, the baby fell, bless him. Like, oh, make
Yeah.
sure that he's okay. Or if you look at a baby, like you have to go touch them because if
Yeah.
not, le das ojo, whatever that means. Like, oh, you give him the evil eye. Like you got to touch him. Like, okay, like what?
Mhm.
And like why? Why did that happen? Where does that originate from? And so yeah, that's part of it too. Start doing the research as to these. I forgot what they're called, but there's a word for it, and as to why these customs, I guess, were
Yeah.
still relevant. You know, um,
A surprisingly amount of Catholic, ritual or like custom and stuff in Mexico are directly tied to the Aztec mythology and stuff. It's interesting.
exactly. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting. So I always had that interest, like growing up. Also, I wasn't very good at math. I was just into writing. I was into literature,
Yeah.
English, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And English was not my first language.
Hmm.
My parents spoke to me in Spanish exclusively until I went to elementary school. But when
Hmm.
I went to elementary school, my parents told me like, okay, you can only choose one. You can only choose one, and you can master one. And we suggest that you do English. I mean, they didn't say it in such a nice way, but
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so I guess I got to learn English now. No, but then they would mess me up because I'd come home and they'd speak to me in nothing but Spanish. So I'm like, what's going on here? What's
Mhm.
happening here? But that got me curious as to these customs, these traditions that we have, and that just led into all this other stuff like
Yeah.
superstitions and las brujas and all this craziness, man. So
Yeah, my hope is that in the next year or 2 years or whatever, I'm going to start trying to learn Spanish.
mhm,
Um, I um, like I said, my dad is the whitest guy ever.
mhm,
My mom jokingly, she's very fair skinned, very light, and so
mhm,
like people wouldn't necessarily recognize her as Mexican.
mhm.
Um, and but she would always joke, "Oh, I'm not Mexican, I'm French." Um, but so it was the only time, like really, it was ever spoken. My grandma and at work, those are the only times.
Yeah,
And and I look Mexican enough that I'll have Mexican dudes come up to me in stores and stuff and start speaking
yeah.
to me, and then I'll be like, "Sorry guys, I don't." And then the rest of the time, if I see them in any aisle, they just be like.
No,
but
I get you like that. My son is very very light skinned and he's blonde. He's almost blonde. So, and I'm very dark skinned as well. And so people are like, so who's your son? I'm like, oh, that's my son. Like, no, seriously, who's your son? Like, what the hell, man?
yeah.
Like, so I totally understand that. Yeah.
But I definitely want to. I would definitely want to learn. I'm trying to I'm listening to like a good half of my day is listening to stories in Spanish that I found on YouTube just to get it like in my head,
Hmm.
but because my hope is to return to that all-inclusive resort because it's
Oh,
the most
nice.
beautiful. Or alternatively, I went to Costa Rica, and it's also very beautiful there. So
Mhm.
either place, I need to learn Spanish.
Listen to Spanish music. That's my best advice to you. Like, listen to my lady right now. She's really into Carol G, so she's been listening to that, and I'm like, oh wow, that's cool, because I don't really listen to Spanish music, but
Yeah,
she does. So yeah, if you want to learn, if you want to pick up stuff, like I would listen to like some of the Spanish music and stuff like that. So
I got to be honest with you. Like I have found I've done some searching over the past few years
hmm.
of uh, like I'm a punk emo kid.
Hell yeah, man.
And so I've been trying to find music, Spanish music, in particular Mexican, because there is a difference in Mexican Spanish than European Spanish.
Oh, definitely. Hmm.
I I got it. I don't know if this is racist or whatever, but when someone from Spain says Barcelona,
Yes.
it's like that's it sounds so stupid.
It's Castellano. That's what it's called. Castilian
Castilian,
Spanish.
yeah, yeah,
It,
yeah,
it throws me off too, man. Trust me, and even more so because I'm right on the border. I'm like
yeah.
right up against the border. I could throw a rock and hit Mexico. That's how close I am. But when these guys come over, because 6x6 is mostly based out of Juarez, which is right
Hmm.
there, and I'm in El Paso. So whenever I go visit them or they come over and I speak Spanish with them, they make me feel like I'm stupid because I'm not speaking proper Spanish and stuff. So I just try to not do it and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
if you can get together with some friends that speak Spanish and just listen to their conversations, you'll start picking up
yeah,
on
yeah.
stuff because a lot of that Latin stuff is just mixed up with it. So, um, mhm.
I mean, we'll talk about your other stuff real quick here, but I wanted
Mhm.
to also just mention the idea of, because we touched on it a little bit about, like I said, Mexico's right next door. Like
Oh yeah.
there's so much um, mythology and legend and history all through the North and South America that people just don't know,
Hmm.
like at all. And it's kind of a shame. I'm glad that I feel like it's becoming more prevalent and more known.
Hmm.
And I wanted to show this real quick. I'm going to play this and use it as an opportunity to use the restroom. um, I've been drinking alcohol and it's running right
Me
through me.
me too, sir. Me too. Go right ahead.
But this is, if anyone hasn't seen this before, I'm going to play this. It's about 4 minutes long. It's a Peruvian anime that this is their what do they call it? Basically, their pitch, right?
Oh, okay.
But it's it's based on Peruvian mythology, which did bleed into parts of Mexico, particularly the West Coast.
Oh, okay.
Um, so I'm gonna click this and show this real quick, and hopefully be back as quick as I can. So
No worries.
Escucha el clamor de los antiguos dioses. Aquellos que alguna vez fueron temidos y amados, hoy yacen sepultados en el olvido. Pero su regreso está cerca y el conflicto es inevitable.
¿Me traes el batán grande de afuera?
Ya.
¡Apúrate, pues, hija!
¿Por qué me miras así, anciana? ¿Estás confundida? Sucede que algunos
Tenemos más de un rostro, como el dios a quien le rezas. Anticuchos.
En los pies, ya es un montón de...
Cambia esa cara. Estás con Iyama,
Sí, yo sé que
el
estoy
trueno mismo, ¿vi? Así que confía.
Confío, pero
¡Y
es que-
salta!
¿Qué?
¡Abre los ojos, Pedro! ¡Entrégate a la aventura!
Poco a poco recuperan su presencia en la tierra. Vienen buscando tu corazón.
¿De dónde vengo? ¿Quién soy realmente?
Vaya sorpresa.
¿Me conoces?
¿La conoces?
¿No me recuerdas? Nina, tú y yo somos iguales.
No habrá paz en los cielos.
Mi fuego respira.
¡Baila!
Mi corazón arde.
¡Baila, pequeña flaca!
Quemaré todo. Todo cambiará.
¡Qué insolencia! Simples runas y pequeños sapos jugando por poder. ¡Conozcan su lugar! ¡Yo soy Inti, el sol radiante! ¡Y este es mi imperio!
So I gotta ask, does that excite your soul?
And it does actually like that's really interesting to me. I want to check more of it out. There was one part in there that really like resonated with me, and that's the part in the church
Mhm.
where she reveals herself and she's like, "Don't we all have masks just like the God that you worship?" I'm like, "Holy shit, man! That's like on the fucking point right there." Because that's the whole the connection that I was talking about. Like everybody
Mhm.
connects with their God or gods because that's who they worship or that's who they grew up with believing in. And
Yeah.
even Catholicism, even Christianity, all of those gods, they all have stories, and that's the thing that gets to me the most, man. That thing that excited me right there because it,
Yeah.
it looks cool. It looks sleek, it looks sharp, it looks sexy, it's ready to
Mhm.
go. So I'm really curious about that. That's really not man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I again, like I said, it's kind of their promo. Like they're using that. They want to get investors
Hmm.
to notice it and stuff. I hope it goes somewhere. I hope it becomes a series, whatever. And but I hope that it also, if it does get made, excites interest from the general population into more of the mythology and legend of North and South America.
See, that would be awesome, man. And
Uh,
and everybody always the default is the superhero genre that exists right now. Everybody goes
mhm,
to that. Like that's our modern gods. Everybody knows who Batman is.
yeah,
Everybody knows who Superman is, Spider Man. The X Men, and but there's so much more.
yeah,
Like culturally, there's so much more,
mhm,
and stuff like that excites me because that shows you what it can be, and it looks good, dude. It looks
yeah,
awesome. It doesn't look like whatever.
yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about your other stuff you got coming up as well. One of them is in the Cryptindles universe, right?
Yes, the abyss between stars is in the Kryptonals universe. I'm not saying how it's tied in, but it is tied in. But it's the way that I pitch it is usually it's Stand by Me
Hmm.
with skinwalkers. That's what
Oh,
it is.
nice.
And it's a coming of age story. It's a horror story of these kids. Their friend disappears, and it's kind of like it. They're all in love with her, and she disappears, and no one can find her. Nobody knows where she's at. So these guys, they're about to go into high school. They're still like in the summer right before high school, and they're like, let's go find her. Let's go and see where she's at. And it takes place in New Mexico, and it's on the border of the res on the
Hmm.
Navajo reservation, and like her family is involved in some stuff. So they're like, shit, like what if it's a part of their I guess their like upbringing and stuff. So they go into the woods, into the the woods that they have in the area, up against the reservation, and they start looking for her, and it just goes bonkers from there. It just goes all over the place, and it's tied into like a lot of Lovecraft. It's tied into a lot of the coming of age
Hmm.
stuff, like Stand by Me. But yeah, it's these guys, these four kids that go out searching for their friend. They want to
Nice.
find out what happened to her, and but it's tied into some aspects of the Kryptonauts. So
Is that coming along? Like, do you have a time frame for where that's gonna come out and stuff?
originally, I wanted to hopefully launch like midsummer, at least
Hmm.
the first issue. But then, I started talking to Oliver, and we started like discussing how things are right now, especially in the industry. Like printing is really expensive right
Hmm.
now, man. So we decided that we're going to pull back, finish the entire story, and have the artist, which is Javier Gutierrez, who drew he drew Escape or Die for 6x6 Comics, which is a zombie story based in Juarez. He drew that story, and his art is very it moves a lot. It's kind of like manga.
Hmm.
And I talked to Javi, and Javi was like, "Okay, well, if we're gonna do the whole story, then we'll just do the whole story and then release it. Hopefully by the beginning of next year, we'll do something for it in conjunction with Free Comic Book Day, and hopefully push it out in that
Yeah.
form. That way, you don't have to wait around, like, because right now I feel like I'm doing a disservice to all the fans because I'm
Hmm.
waiting so freaking long to put out the next volume of the Kryptonauts. And it's just that everybody gets involved in their own stuff. They got busy. Dario
Yeah.
wasn't available at the time, and I want Dario, of course. I'm not gonna ask for
Yeah.
anything else. So, but as far as the Abyss Between Stars, I want Javi to complete the whole run, the whole issue. It's a self-contained story, but
Hmm.
I want him to finish it before we actually launch. So I had
Yeah.
to pull back on that a little bit.
Right. That makes sense to have a whole, was it Phenom Comics? They did
Um,
Bear
yes, yes, yes,
Hunter
yes.
Ninja Bear.
I know which one you're talking about. Hunter Ninja
They're
Bear, something like that.
kind of like their model is to release in the crowdfunding area, release the full trade, collection.
Mhm.
And then if that does well, cut that up into issues. And it's like I like that idea. That's a good idea. Like, I get the cool like the complete story, and then you sell it to the people who didn't back you one at a time. Yeah, that's
Mm,
fine.
yeah, that's kind of what we did with the Kryptonauts, because the Kryptonauts was kicks Indiegogo. We did the whole trade, everything was done, and then after we did it, a publisher looked at us and he was like, "Hey man, you guys want to do floppies? I have a diamond connection." So we're like, "Yeah, let's do the floppies, right?" But then everything started going south, and
Hmm.
he had issues, so we only got as far as issue 4. We finished issue 4. Issue 5 was solicited, but we couldn't complete it. So then we had to pull back and try to figure out what we're going to do, if we're going to keep going with floppies. I mean, the trade is already released. What do we do? So we
Hmm.
decided to go through the global comics uh, part, and release everything as floppies, through global comics digitally.
Yeah.
And we got
Yeah.
as far as the last issue, which was issue 5, which was not released physically. So we did
Hmm.
it through global comics, but now we got to finish 6 and part of 7, because there was, in the original trade, there was a lot more story that got left on the cutting room floor. It doesn't take away from the story; it kind of adds to it.
Hmm.
And some of the pages were drawn by Dario, so we had to go back and say, you know what, we're going to finish the full story, the full extra stuff, and that way we can release it on Global Comics as kind of like a double-sized final issue for that story arc. So that's what
Nice.
we're working on right now.
So
Um,
the
Sorry, go ahead.
first story arc is 7 issues then.
Yes, the first arc
Okay.
originally was 6. Now it's going to be 7, because we
Nice.
added some more stuff at the
Yeah.
end. And then the next volume is already being worked on. I already talked to Dario. He's starting to do some character sketches. So we're working on volume 2 of the Kryptonauts, and then Javi is working on the Abyss Between Stars. And then we got another book that we're working on, and that book is pretty much done. I think he's 3 pages away from finishing the book, and that's the Bloodhammer book. And
Hmm.
that was just fun, man. That was
Yeah.
just
It
comics for the
it
sake of comics and stuff.
it has a name that's comics for the sake of
Yeah,
comics.
exactly. My friend Dave Olivares, I've known him since forever. I actually started doing comics with him back in high school. Um, he wanted to put this book out, and he's been drawing on it here and there. So I told him like, all right, man, well, how much do you have done? He's like, oh, I have 12 pages. I'm like, can you do another 12 and we'll do a full book and then we'll like launch it. You know, we can like get some crowdfunding for it. He's like, yeah, let me see what I can do. So he's in between jobs right now. He's been working on that. And I think he's like 3 pages away from finishing the full
Nice.
issue. And as soon as he's done, we're gonna go for it and see what we can do. I'm gonna start advertising it a lot more, you know,
Mhm.
getting the word out. And hopefully, if everything works well, maybe by the end of July, we'll launch it or something like that and see what we can do with it. But yeah, like I said, it's just fun.
Mhm.
It's in the vein of the old action comics. There's like something happening on each panel. There's like, you know, it's just kinetic. It's just moving,
Yeah.
and the story, it's not too hard to follow. He wanted me to he we work the Marvel way when it comes to him.
Mhm.
He draws these pages and he wants me to go back and script them. So that's what we're doing right now. So I'm going back to all these pages and kind of scripting them. He's already finished, you know, where the story's going to go and everything like that. So that's what we're working on right now and just trying to give it a little bit more meat on the bones
Yeah.
before we release it. But yeah,
Oh,
that's
oh,
Bloodhammer.
cool stuff. Is it I mean, image inspired at all? Because I
Oh,
mean,
big time, dude. Like hardcore, like 90s image inspired, like something's happening, like it's just movement. That's all it
yeah,
is, like a roller coaster ride. A lot of fight scenes, of course, a lot of like, you know, splash pages and double page spreads and stuff like that. So it should be
nice.
very entertaining. But at the same time, he wanted me to script it because he saw what I did on the Kryptonals as far as the world building.
Mhm.
And he's like, I know it's just gonna be like a one shot for now, but I want something that's you know, that has some meat on it. So if you can go in there and script it in a way where, you know, it leaves people wanting more, then when we come back and see if we can do the second one, you know, there'll be something established already as far as the world is concerned. And he told me the gist of the story, and I found it kind of interesting. And yeah, it's based off of like all the cool image books like Wildcats and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But at the same time, he's really into horror. So we had to throw that aspect in there as far as the horror,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, themes and stuff like that. So mhm.
Nice. All right. Sounds good. We will. I have in the. I think I pinned it in the chat. I'm pretty sure I did. Pinned in the chat and in the description of the video, I have links to thecryptidnills.com, and I don't remember what the other one is. I did two of them.
Oh,
It might
okay. No
it might
worries.
it might be 656. I'm not sure, but if
Mhm.
not, I'll go ahead and put those in there. But we'll get back to those in a little bit. But we tend to on this content we tend to run about an hour, which
Mhm.
is just for the sake of 3 hours. You know, it's like who has time for that?
No, I get you.
But so we're gonna go ahead and move into our next segment,
Mhm.
which is the big questions.
Oh, here we go.
um, we are going to ask you. I typically have three questions. Um, I only have two this week, just because I it's been a week. Um,
No worries.
I was going to ask about Rob Liefeld video he posted, but it's like that I was going to send the link to you,
Mhm.
but I just didn't get time around to do it.
Which one was that one? Because I listened to his podcast.
The '90s one where he talked about the '90s, like are winning.
Oh, okay. Was that the 777 issue or episode?
Well, no, he just started up on YouTube.
Oh, okay, okay. So it's a YouTube one. Okay, I haven't
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
that one yet.
Yeah, but it's
Mhm.
basically him just talking about, well, his you know Deadpool being super popular right now, but
Mhm.
then he carries that over into Demi Moore. It was a huge actor in the '90s, and
Mhm.
now she's getting Oscar nominations, and and he's talking about all these things from the '90s that are big right now, and essentially saying that what was kind of popular and cool in the '90s is what will sell now. like in comics, comics have been struggling for a while, right, in the
Hmm.
mainstream. Well, maybe it's because they need to bring back that image aesthetic. In movies have been struggling for a while, so maybe they need to bring back the '90s stars, which it's like they're all old now. Like, they're all old people. Like but
Yeah.
and I was just like um how do you the image look, the image, the '90s feel of movies and music and entertainment. Do you think that it really could make a difference in kind of the failures of movies that are happening now and comics and I wouldn't say music per se, because music's broken up so much into such small little genres,
Hmm.
so it's tough to, I know the music industry itself is struggling, but like um there's no way, I don't think there's any way to bring that together in the same way you can with movies and you can with comics.
Yeah.
um but like, do you think that's a fair assessment to say, like, if they just brought back the '90s, it would
I
fix it?
mean, there's a lot of aspects of the '90s that I think should stay in the '90s.
Hmm.
Um, Comics is like it's difficult because in the '90s there was always the hit or miss. They had all these first issues that never went anywhere. They had all these other companies that never went anywhere. Like, who remembers Bravura, right? And Liefeld's always making fun of that. What's a Bravura? Like, um, but there's a lot of stuff that came out in the '90s that I don't think would still resonate
Yeah.
now. There's a certain aspect of the '90s, and I think it's mostly towards the beginning of the '90s, coming out of the '80s, that is still very nostalgic. We still have a soft spot for it.
Hmm.
Deadpool being one of them, of course. But then again, Deadpool has been in the eye of the consumer since the '90s. It's never really
Yeah.
stopped. It's never really gone away. So we kind of grew up with it. Kind of like kids today that grew up with internet. They've never experienced a world that didn't have it,
Hmm.
and that's kind of like the whole Deadpool thing. They've always known that Deadpool was there. Now, if you go back and you tell, you say, what's his name? What's my favorite DC character? What's his name? Oh man, I forgot. Buona Beast. I love Buona Beast. Nobody knows who the hell Buona Beast is, man.
I
You
don't.
know exactly. I love Buona Beast, and if I would tell like my kids, like, hey, you guys know who Buona Beast is? Like, no, we don't. We don't really care to. They don't have time for that. They want something that's always in the public's eye, something that they can
Hmm.
relate to immediately, and something that resonates. And Deadpool's one of them. Batman's one. All the icons are one of them. But it just depends on how they're handled as well.
Yeah.
Liefeld makes a lot of points when it comes to that because he's all the '90s are back. I'm like,
Hmm.
yes, but what of the '90s is back? What did you create in the '90s that's always been there? Deadpool, right? Okay,
Yeah.
good. But at the same time, I feel like he's using that as leverage to kind of like, oh, guess what else is back from the '90s? Brigade and
Yeah.
Shaft from Youngblood, and it's doing great. The reason that I think they're doing great, and don't get me wrong, man, I love Robin, but the reason that those books are doing great is he's found that niche, he's found those people that still appreciate that work, and he's capitalized on it. And he does his live streams, he does his what's up or what is it called, whatnots, his
Yeah.
his auctions, and he can monetize that. And he's
Hmm.
done a very, very good job of it. And that's why he has that liberty to say, well, look at my newest issue, Youngblood. It's selling fucking bonkers over here. Why can't someone just pick up the fucking baton and do the same with a character in DC? And
Yeah.
it's not going to happen like that because a lot of these characters in DC have not had that limelight. In DC
Hmm.
Comics, it's always the same characters. It's always Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. That's it.
Yeah.
Nobody will give another character a chance. Same thing for Marvel, Spider-Man, Wolverine,
Hmm.
Deadpool. Of course, no one's going to give anyone another chance. And a lot of those like rumblings are going on right now because I don't know if you heard they announced the whole Deadpool Batman crossover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're taking advantage of that. And I think today, I think Oli sent me a screenshot of Scott Snyder. I don't know if you follow Scott Snyder or not, but
Um,
he came
maybe.
out. Um, he's drawing absolute, or rather, he's writing Absolute Batman,
Hmm.
and he came out with this post. And let me read it to you really quick.
Hmm.
Scott Snyder says, according to writer Scott Snyder, one of his aims with Absolute Batman was to make sure each issue having a big bombastic moment that would get readers talking, as he believes that re-embracing the spirit of monthly comics is perhaps the only way for Western comic book industry to survive through this current period of economic turmoil. He
Mhm.
says there's a reckoning happening in comics. The DC scribe then warned, if we don't focus on what makes monthly comics special, we won't survive in a tough economy. So we're all taking our biggest swings. But those biggest swings are coming from established characters that have
Mhm.
never left the public eye.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it. Like, well, yeah, of course Batman's gonna take big swings because he can afford to do it. But
Mhm.
no one's gonna look and say, like, well, fucking the JLA is fucking on fire right now because Martian Manhunter did this thing. No, it just depends on how they handle the character and what character is relevant at the time, I think.
Yeah.
And that's that. I mean, as far as the '90s coming back, whatever character was relevant in the '90s, if it's survived all the way to now, of course people are going to be interested in it and they're going to back it. They're going to
Yeah.
want it. So
And ironically, you have the problem of, in the 90s, um, what if somebody along the way had said, oh no, the 70s are what matter? Would
mhm.
Deadpool have made it?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Like,
I understand, the nostalgic aspect of, you know, R- Rob and we are all of this age where, the comics, when we got into comics, when we it was all roughly the same time, and we're all into, we connect to them, right?
mhm.
Super heavily, but like at the same time, um I personally don't want people to just rehash that same feeling,
Yeah.
because at that time they weren't rehashing the feeling of, the 70s. They
Mhm.
were they were doing something that they thought was cool, that they thought was original. They were breaking out of a mold, and it's like, let's not look to the 90s as the, staple for what we want people to be doing nowadays. Sure, it catches our eyes, but it's the same thing as like, you know you know I happen to like certain BMX bikes better than any other bikes, but that's just because that's what was happening when I was, 10.
Yeah.
you know like, that doesn't mean like my kids are going to find it interesting. you
And
know
that's
um
exactly it too, man. Like what do the kids find interesting right now? Because back then we didn't have internet. I'm talking
mhm,
about the '90s. If it was around, we didn't really have access to it. Not everybody had access to it, so we relied on other forms of entertainment. And comics was one of the big ones. Music, of course, movies, stuff like
mhm,
that. Games, fucking video games. Um, but that stuff has kind of taken a back seat now because everything is so easily accessible online, including gaming. And that's
mhm.
the form of entertainment that kids gravitate to now. Like, I'm not going to pick up a book and read it when I can just experience that same thing. Like, why am I going to read about Deadpool when I can beat Deadpool on a video game and play through, you
Yeah,
know? And that's, I mean, what you're touching on right there is exactly it. Like, what was cool in the '90s may not be cool now because we're not in the same space we were
yeah,
then.
yeah. And it's just tough to, um break away from that, as sadly, most of the comic fandom is guys 35 and
Hmm.
above, you know
Oh yeah,
and 35's young. Like, I'm giving
yeah.
grace.
Thank you, sir. Yeah,
But and it's hard to break out of that mold. Like I said, working in construction, there's a whole lot of old white guys, and they listen to classic rock all the time, and they think that's
yeah.
the only thing. It's like, I don't want to be that for comics. I don't want to be like, hey kids, look at this Pink Floyd of a comic.
I feel the same. I work at a pawn shop, and it depends on the set of coworkers that I have. Like, if there's a certain set of coworkers, they listen to classic rock and
Mhm.
'80s and '90s, and if there's the other set of coworkers, then we're listening to EDM,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, I can see your point exactly. Like, it just depends. But it's true, man. Like, kids today are just gonna be are gravitate are it's disposable entertainment,
Yeah.
to them.
And I think the biggest part of it is, it's not so much about bringing back a certain look or style or feel of the 90s or 2000, whatever it is. It's looking back at like 90s movies. In the episode he mentioned Demi Moore, which is a strange thing to mention. You're like, who cares about Demi Moore? But like it's not.
The Tom Cruise thing that he always talks about Tom Cruise, dude. He loves Tom Cruise too.
Well, yeah, but even that, like Tom Cruise, it's not so much, especially kids nowadays. When we were growing up, we had a sense of like everyone knew who pop culture icons were, even if you didn't like them. Because we didn't have the internet breaking everything into such small little sections. You had you watched 4 channels. If you had cable, you watched a few more, but they were all basically feeding off the 4 channels.
Exactly.
and you all knew who Tom Cruise was. But even at that, it's not so much about bringing back a feel. The only reason movies in the 90s, and there were bad movies in the 90s, but movies that we remember, that we celebrate from the 90s, are of any value, it's because they are written well.
Yeah.
They were directed well. A lot of the comics that I enjoy from the 90s, of course they were drawn well. Some of them were written so well, but then when I moved into like more indie stuff and things like that, then they were written well and drawn well. So it's not so much about the 90s coming back. It's more about let's bring back some good writing, some good art.
Yeah.
Good direction in movies, good storytelling. I think
good
that's
qualities, entertainment, rather than just whatever sticks on the wall, kind of thing. Yeah, I understand that.
And not creativity by corporate consensus.
Oh man, that's a whole other thing right there. Like, no, but I understand that too. But and like I said, man, there's a lot of points that he brings up that are like, wow, that's cool, But at the same time, he's still waxing nostalgic when it comes to that, because that's when he was in his prime, and of course we're all gonna miss it when we're in our prime, and we're not any longer. But he's gonna fly that flag really high. Like, the 90s are where it's at, guys, because that's when I came in, and you got to remember that's when Deadpool was established. And of course he's gonna say that. Nowadays it's just to quote, pump up the volume. All the great themes have been used up and turned into theme parks. That's all it is. And everyone wants to take that ride and be done with it, and that's it. So it's difficult to come up with something new and original that's captivating to the audience, that they want more of it, when they can just go and just be either nostalgic, or they can go and just be, oh, okay, that's cool, I'm done with it, move on to the next thing. It's difficult, man.
Yeah. All right, well, so it turns out I have 3 questions after all. There was number 1. All right. Number 2, question number 2 for the night. In your opinion, what was the best theme song of a TV show ever?
Oh shit, dude! Oh my god. Okay, all right. I'm gonna be a little bit biased because I just love this fucking show, but the Golden Girls.
Thank you for being
exactly.
Friend.
Thank you, sir.
Travel down the road and back again.
Dude, I love that theme. I love that theme song. There's a lot of other cool ones, of course, but that one just resonates with me. And it's funny because I just had a birthday, and the theme was the Golden Girls, so everybody dressed up like old people, and it was just one of those things. So I'm being a little biased there, but
you've seen those memes where it's like Blanche was 41 at the time, and I'm like, I'm 48, bro. Like,
yes, I'm like, what happened here, man? Like, good God, like people, and they show that picture of who was it, Sofia Vergara, and she's like 50, and they show Blanche like right next to her, and she's like, what the hell happened here?
Yeah. I wonder if in the 80s or 90s, when Golden Girls was on, were they looking at like their parents, like hairstyles, because it's got a lot of it has to do with the hairstyles, and their clothing and stuff. Like, were they looking at their parents and being like, you guys look so old, we look so hip and young, like
I think that's what it had to do a lot with too, man. The generation, like it seemed like the older generation, and I use that term very loosely because I'm part of it as well.
Mhm.
They accepted it. They accepted getting old a lot easier than we do now.
Mhm.
And it's like, nah, fuck that. I'm not old. I'm gonna go do stuff and jump and run and whatever. But
Yeah.
back then it's like, oh, we gotta slow down and just take everything in and retire in Miami when we're 40 and stuff like that. So I think that's a lot to do with that. But oh man, as
Well,
far as theme songs, yeah, the
that and there at some point people stopped wearing suits from the time they were 12 till they died, and now I'm wearing a tank top and I'm it's like or graphic tees and I'm like coming up on 50 like.
it's all good, man. I mean, think about it like the tattoo thing. Like tattoos back in the day were like taboo. Like nobody had tattoos, but
Mhm.
now we sport them. Like right now, you're sporting your tattoo. You're proud of it, and it's just another day. But back then, it's like, oh my god, look, he has a tattoo. He must be in a gang or something like that.
I don't know if they would have thought that. Like, it's a Teenage Turtles and Usagi Ojimbo, but
No, that's awesome, bro.
I was in the grocery store this morning. Okay, like you know, I love our people, comic people, right?
Mhm.
Generally speaking, but I don't know if you've noticed that a lot of people who are comic fans have a they're I don't want
You
there's
can
a
be fun,
cringe
man. It's
level,
okay.
an inborn cringe level
Mhm.
to them, right? And it even comes out into their voice, right?
Oh yeah.
So I'm in the grocery store today, and all of a sudden, I'm in line checking out, and all of a sudden I hear, "My good sir, I want to thank you on your ink." And I turn around, and there's a guy, a few people back, and he's like, "I have never in all of my life." But the tone of his voice carry everyone's
Yeah.
the whole store's looking at us now, and he's like, "I've never in my life seen an Usagi Yojimbo. Well done." And I'm like, "Thanks, bud. Thanks."
It's like they have to take the time to be extra and let everybody know that. Like, by the way, check this out.
Yeah.
No, I,
But
I agree with you though, man. It does happen a lot. Like, it's like, oh my, I had no idea that you were so into Spider-Man. Mike
yeah.
Lord.
And I talked to him. Just he's a fellow comic nerd or whatever. It's fine. This,
Mhm.
we'll talk. But like, bring it down just a little.
Can you wait till I'm in the parking lot, bro? At least something.
But
No,
yeah, that's actually a really good theme song choice. A lot of shows had really great theme songs back in the '90s and stuff. Like they don't they don't really do that anymore. Like commercials and stuff. Like there's no really great theme songs.
yeah, the jingles are lacking, man. Like, I don't really want to buy anything anymore. But no, you're right. As far as theme songs, like TV shows, like there's not really any more theme song. It's just music or bumper
Mhm.
music or
There
whatever.
there was one I saw for a pharmaceutical um, called Biktarvy, I think was the name of it,
Hmm.
where they used the song "This Is Me" from The Greatest Showman,
Really?
and it would play. I'm it's somewhere in the back of my mind. I heard like my son loves The Greatest Showman. He'll watch it over and over again, so I know every word of it. But and I'm watching this commercial, and I'm like, why do I recognize? And then they got to the "This Is Me," and it's the only part that has vocals, and they go Biktarvy.
Hey, that's a good way to integrate it, man. That's pretty
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
I wonder how much they
um,
paid for that, just that
yeah.
one part.
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably a pretty penny. But I was thinking, and it's not technically written for the show, but the Smallville um theme song, "Somebody Save Me."
Yes, it was Void Romeo or something. I forget the
Yeah,
name of
yeah.
it.
That song, anytime I hear that, it just takes me back to such a special place because
Hmm.
that show was so, so good. The first couple seasons were so,
Yeah,
great, so I might lean towards that one.
that one's a good one, man. I like that one too. Like a lot of '80s theme, or rather sitcoms had really good, like Family Ties and
Hmm.
all those other ones. They had words to it. Um, those are really cool. So I
Yeah.
lean towards those theme songs, but the Golden Girls just always just sticks in my head. As soon
Yeah.
as I hear it,
Nice.
I stop and I start, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what they're meant for, just to get you to think of what it is, All right, all right. So question number three. We'll get to this one. So about 2 weeks ago, I'm driving down the road. I live in Boise, Idaho, and
Mhm.
I'm driving past they have a sports complex, fields of baseball, diamonds, and whatever, and uh, there's three guys and they're probably 16 to maybe 18, right? And
Mhm.
they're kind of nerdy looking dudes, but all three of them are in this field, and they're all they're flying a box kite together.
Oh wow.
All
Okay.
three of them are flying a box kite together, and I'm like, I drove past them like, how cool, three friends doing something. But it got me thinking, like, and here's the question: what were the weird, like, trends of physical things when you were growing up through elementary, middle school, even into high school? What were the things that your friends did that, like, you look back now and you're like, um I'll give you an example. Marbles was huge when I lived in Arizona. We all had bags of marbles and we would
Mhm.
play, and win each other's, steelies and whatever else, cat's eyes and stuff.
Oh, the
Was
cat's eye, the Steelies, yeah.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
What did you have those? What were the big weird, trends, I guess, when you were growing up in school?
Oh man, like at in middle school, I remember. I don't know if you remember this or not, but there was a time in middle school when there like we would get bullied, and yeah, it was something that would happen all the time, right? But people that were not involved in the bullying would join in, and I don't know if I can say it or not on air, but this is what it was called, like smear the queer.
Hmm.
I don't remember that,
Yeah.
but that like I was afraid to go into the field because of that, because like the bullies would pick on you, right? But then all these like strangers would join in and like be part of it. And like, I don't even know these guys. They're trying to kill me, stuff like that. So there was that, and I never participated in it. I was a victim of it, but I never participated in it. But I
Mhm.
remember that, like as far as physical stuff, but that's more like leaning towards like the violent stuff, right? But as far as here in this area of the country, um, do you know? Okay, so how would they translate to English? Like lilas, like a lila tree. It's not a lily tree, but it's a lila. They have little balls, like they hang out from the tree, and they have little like yellow balls, and they're hard.
Mhm.
Once they like they get older, when they first grow out of the tree, they're really green,
Mhm.
but as they like mature, they get really hard and yellow. So what we would do is we would take the tops of soda bottles and we would cut off like the top, like the tip, right? And we
Mhm.
put a balloon with rubber bands around one end, and then we'd get the lilas and we'd arm ourselves with those, and we would have lila wars, and we'd throw the lila into the balloon, pull it back, and slingshot it out the
Nice.
top of the tip, and like across the street, man, like we'd be shooting each other across the street with this thing. And it would all it would take was for us would be to find like a used bottle of soda or something
Mhm.
that had that the spout, and we'd do that all day long, man. And it would just for hours and hours on end, we'd go down the streets of all the streets because for some reason lilas seemed really popular in this area. We'd go down these streets and just pick buckets full of these lilas and come back and then just shoot each other with them. So there was
Nice. That's
that.
that's a good time. It's like proto airsoft.
Yes, exactly. Proto airsoft. And then of course during 4th of July we'd throw like, firecrackers at each other. Or we'd hold the firecracker in our fingertips as long as we possibly could before it would blow up and then throw it.
Hmm.
And sometimes we'd mess
Mhm.
up and people would lose like fingertips and stuff like that. But yeah, I remember that. Like those were the more memorable things
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
would do as kids. But
Yeah, we had
marbles,
it
of course.
down in Prescott, Arizona. We had I don't know what kind of trees. Maybe it's some sort of elm tree, maybe, but they grew these spiky. The seeds were like windborne, right?
Mhm.
They're kind of cottony and they would fly. But before they fell apart, they were in these hard round, spiky balls.
Oh shit.
Like you could chuck them at each other and they would hurt pretty bad. But
Oh man.
more importantly, if you crumbled them up and stuffed them down somebody's shirt, it was like itching powder.
Oh my
It was
god.
the worst thing. And so we would chase each other around schoolyard all day trying to get people, shove it down everyone's shirt.
That's messed up. That's cool though. I'm gonna
We
look
just
around.
Yeah, we just called them itchy ball trees, but I don't
Itchy
know
ball
what they're.
trees.
Yes.
Oh
But
man, did you ever get into the whole the crayfish thing? Like like if there was a ditch around your house and you'd go
yeah,
and there was water and you'd like get weenies and like try to like fish for crayfish?
yeah, we didn't fish from. We had down near my grandma's house. You'd walk down her road. When I was a kid, it was still dirt road, and then but it would turn into a path. It would go to a park. We just
Mhm.
called it the Creek Park because there was a creek that ran through there, and there was crawdaddies or whatever they were called in the creek, and we
Mhm.
would just go and it was super shallow. You could see them and you pick them up and
Oh, you just grab them?
yeah, put them in a bucket and carry them around until they died. Because
Yeah, that's the same thing we would do, but we'd use like weenies and a piece of string, and then we'd like lure them in, and they would grab onto the weenie and try to eat it, and then we'd pull them out, like yank them out, and then like, oh shit, we got crayfish. We didn't really know that we could eat them, so we just like,
yeah.
the same thing. We just carrying them out and carrying them around until they die.
Yeah, we had also like lizards were a big thing down there when I was a kid.
Mhm.
I don't know. We called them blue belly lizards, because
Yeah.
and I had a friend. His name was Clint, little white kid, and he would pinch the sides of their mouths and make them bite his earlobes, and he'd wear them around until they let go, like
Shut up,
ear,
really?
like earrings. Clint was an interesting kid. He was the wild white kid who was just way too loud and rowdy. Him and another guy. Clint was probably 8. The other guy's name was Gary. Called him Gary Gnu. I don't know if you remember Gary Gnu from
Yes.
whatever it was that show.
Was it
Three, two,
Sesame
one,
Street?
three,
Oh,
two,
oh
one,
yeah,
contact.
3, 2, contact.
But we call him Gary Gnu. Gary was like 14 or 15. They hung out together. They were best friends, and but they were just rowdy. They were like, Dennis the Menace times 3. And one day my brother and I were walking. At that time we lived basically a block down the hill from my grandma, and we were walking to grandma's house, and we were just talking, and all of a sudden, out of a bunch of bushes on the side of the road, Gary and Clint just come busting out, and they have like one of them has like a hockey stick and a hockey mask, and the other one's got a baseball bat and like a helmet on, and they're freaking out because apparently what they had just done is attacked a wasp nest with their
Oh shit.
weapons. And they jump out and they're screaming and they're like, run for your lives, the wasps are coming, and they take off across the street. We had an elementary school right across the street, and they ran off into the elementary school, and we didn't see any wasps or anything, but that's the kind of stuff they did. They would but good times, but
That sounds like friends that I had, dude. Like we'd do
yeah.
the same thing with fireworks, like firecrackers. The black cats, we'd throw them onto anthills, and then the ants would blow
Mhm.
up onto us, and we're like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, good times. Being kid. I mean, I have 3 daughters, and my son has Down syndrome, but none of them have ever had that kind of experience, and it's a little bit sad,
Hmm.
a
No, I
little
understand
sad.
that. Every chance I get, I throw mine outside. Like, okay,
Yeah.
go guys, go do something, and they come back like 5 minutes later, like, dude, it's hot. Like, why are we outside? Like, come on, man. Like, go dig a hole. All right, go do something. Get dirty. Go do
Yeah.
something. But yeah, it's kind of sad because they don't have those experiences.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember it being hot. I lived in Phoenix, Arizona as well, which is, 115 on a decent day in the
Yeah,
summer. But like, I remember just hanging out outside. It's like, of course, my mother would not let me back in the house, so that's
yeah.
a different story. Like, we have a soft spot for our kids where we're like, yeah, it is hot. Come on
You want,
inside.
yeah, you want to go inside? Come on, the air's on. Come inside. Want some water? Are you okay?
Yeah, my mom, our parents would be like, your skin's not peeling yet. Stay out.
You don't look like a lobster. Stay
Yeah.
outside. Okay, you're fine. No, I remember that too, man. Like, good God.
Yeah.
And it was hours. We'd be outside for hours and hours, and then finally at the end of the day, like, okay, it's getting cool. Let's go inside.
Yeah. And just getting cool means it's like 10:30.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in Arizona, I can imagine, dude. Never gets cool there.
So that's our three questions. Thank you for answering them, and we will let's get ready to wrap up. And before we do, just remind everyone. Like I said, I got a couple of links in the chat and in the description, but let everyone know where they can find your work and you know follow you or whatever.
Definitely, definitely. So if you Google 6x6 Comics, a bunch of our stuff will come up. Of course, it's on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I have a Substack also. It's called the Cryptonodes, or rather a drinker with a writing problem. Um, and you can go visit us there. But if you Google the Cryptonodes, it'll give you all that stuff. It'll pop up, especially 6x6 Comics, and you can follow Ladio as well on X. He's a little shy sometimes, but he posts on Instagram, especially too. Oliver Lee is on 6x6 Comics as well. So just follow us on all the social medias, and you'll be able to find our work. Right now, we're working on the follow up to the Cryptonodes. We're working on the Abyss Between Stars, and also on Bloodhammer, and hopefully we will have more news on those very, very soon as the art comes in. So just keep a lookout for us. So it'll be good, and I'm sure I'll be back on your show to pimp that stuff again. So
Yeah. Well, hope so. So if anyone, like I said before, if you want to get a taste, head to Global Comics, read that first issue, see the incredible art, get some really cool characters. A taste of some like just Dogman's just such a cool character. Um, and but look up their stuff, hit the links that I set up, and follow on X. And thank you for watching. If you're watching now or watching in the future, we appreciate you. And thank you, Ray, for coming on.
thank you for having me, brother. This was fun, man. It's been a minute since I was on a show, but as things progress, hopefully I'll be on more shows and be back on your show as well. So thank you so much, man. I'll be tuning in.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and hit the end button. We hope everyone has a good rest of their night, and I'm gonna go check on a little boy with Down syndrome, make sure he's not doing something he's not supposed to be doing.
Yes, man.